Are you ready to transcend your current understanding of self and spirit? The ancient wisdom, I and the Father are one, holds the secret to activating Christ consciousness within you. Join us as we unravel this powerful statement, guiding you towards a personal transformation and an undeniable connection to universal oneness. All right, family, let's get into it. You know how it is. You're scrolling through life, just trying to keep your head above water. Paying bills, dealing with the daily drama, chasing that bag, trying to find a little peace in all the noise. It feels like you're out here on your own, right? Like you're separate from the good stuff, separate from the power, separate from what some folks call God. That whole feeling of being on the outside looking in. Joel S. Goldsmith would call that the big lie, the ultimate illusion. It's the veil that keeps us stuck in the struggle bus, thinking we're just a body and a brain trying to get by. But what if I told you that the most mind-blowing, game-changing truth is already baked into your very being? I'm talking about that line Jesus dropped that stops you in your tracks. I and the Father are one. That ain't just some fancy, poetic line for a stained glass window. That's the real deal. That's the cheat code. That's the key to unlocking what we're calling the Christ consciousness. It's the direct line to understanding that the infinite power of the universe isn't out there. It's in here. It's your actual, for real nature. So, if you're ready to cut through the nonsense and get to the heart of what it truly means to be one with the Father, to tap into that limitless flow and stop living a life of lack and limitation, then you're in the right spot. But here's the thing. This isn't just a one-way street. This is a conversation. So if this hits home for you, if you're feeling this vibration, do me a solid, like this video, drop a comment with the number 7 if you're ready to go deeper on this journey, and subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. Because, trust me, what we're about to unpack, it changes everything. Let's begin, of course. Here is the expansion of your first keynote, continuing directly from the flow of your introduction. So, let's just sit with that for a minute. This feeling of being a lonely little island in a chaotic ocean. We wake up with it. We carry it through our day. It's the underlying anxiety that we don't have enough, that we aren't good enough, that we're missing out. We see ourselves as separate entities, born into a world that's already spinning, and we spend our whole lives trying to grab onto it, to secure our little piece of it before our time runs out. This is the foundational error. This is the big lie of separation. It's the core illusion that Joel Goldsmith spent his life teaching us to see through. He wouldn't call it a sin in the traditional fire and brimstone sense. He'd call it a mistake in perception, a misidentification. We've been hypnotized by the physical senses into believing that what we can see, touch, and measure is the ultimate reality. We believe the testimony of these eyes that tell us we are a body, confined to a specific location, at the mercy of external forces, the economy, other people's opinions, our own genetic makeup. We think, here I am, and way over there, somewhere out in the cosmos, is God, and my job is to pray real hard, follow the rules, and maybe, just maybe, I can get that distant God to notice me and throw a little blessing my way. But that entire framework, as common as it is the very barrier to our freedom. It sets up a paradigm of a subject reaching for an object. It creates a relationship of me and it, and in that relationship there is always gulf, always a gap, always a sense of lack. This is the source of all our fear, all our conflict, all our feeling of incompleteness. If I am a separate self, then I am in a state of perpetual need. I need to protect this self, fortify this self, satisfy this self. My whole life becomes a project of self-survival, and it's exhausting. It's a grind because it's rooted in a fundamental untruth. The spiritual journey, then, isn't about making this separate self more successful, more pious, or more comfortable. It's not about improving the lie. The real work, the radical work, is in dismantling the lie itself. It's in questioning the very reality of that separate I. that we've taken ourselves to be. The truth that the Master Jesus was pointing to when he said, "I and the Father are one," is that this separation is an impossibility. It's a bad dream. Consciousness cannot be separated from itself. The wave cannot be separated from the ocean. The ray of sunlight cannot be separated from the sun. We are not little, disconnected specks of life pleading with a distant God. We are the very activity, the very expression, the very being of that one infinite life, individual but never divided. This is the first and most critical hurdle. We have to be willing to entertain the staggering possibility that everything we've built our lives upon, this entire identity of a separate, needy, vulnerable self, is a construct. It's a ghost. And the moment we even glimpse that, the solid ground of our suffering begins to turn to mist. The problems of a separate self cannot persist when the belief in that separate self begins to dissolve. The sense of lack, the fear, the loneliness, these are the symptoms of the lie. They aren't your true state. They are the shadow cast by a misperception, and you are not the shadow. You are the light. Now, this is where it gets really tricky, because the moment you hear that, the mind that believes in separation immediately tries to claim that truth for itself. The ego, that little voice in your head that's always narrating, always comparing, always worrying, here's I and the Father are one, and it puffs up its chest. It thinks, wow, I must be pretty special. Look at me, I'm one with God. But that's just the lie putting on spiritual drag. That's the separate self trying to hijack the ultimate reality and use it to make itself feel bigger, more important, more secure. That I, it's so proud of, is the very thing that's in the way. This I we're so familiar with, the one that says, I'm tired, I'm successful, I'm offended, I'm afraid, isn't the I that Jesus was talking about. That's the ego. That's the manufactured self, the collection of thoughts, memories, preferences, and reactions that we've mistakenly come to believe is who we are. It's a constellation of past conditioning, a story we keep telling and retelling ourselves. It has no substance of its own. It's a ghost that feeds on attention and conflict. It can't stand silence or stillness, because in that quiet, its game is exposed. It's like a software program running on the hardware of your true being, and we've spent our whole lives thinking we are the software. This false I is the author of all our problems. It's the one that feels lack because it knows on some level that it's not real. It's temporary. So it's constantly seeking validation, building defenses, and accumulating experiences to prove its own solidity. It's the source of the entire roller coaster of human drama, the pride, the shame, the desire, the resentment. It thrives on duality, on the tension between good and bad, mine and yours, win and lose. This is the character we've been playing, and we've gotten so deep into the role that we've forgotten there's an actor underneath, an actor who is conscious of the whole play. The I that is one with the Father is something entirely different. It's not a thought. It's not an object you can perceive. It is the very consciousness that is aware of the thoughts, aware of the ego, aware of the entire show. It's the silent, spacious, ever-present awareness in which the drama of the separate I arises and falls. You can't find it as an object because it is what is looking. It is the subject of all experience. This I doesn't have peace, it is peace. It doesn't seek love, it is love. It doesn't try to become one with God because it has never, for a single instant, been anything else. The wave doesn't become the ocean, it is the ocean, expressing itself as a wave. Our entire spiritual work is a shift in identification from the noisy, needy wave to the vast, silent, powerful ocean of being that we already are. We aren't trying to build a better, more spiritual ego. We are learning to die to the ego, to see through its illusion, so that what remains is what has always been here, the one, I am. That is the substance of all being. This brings us to the heart of the matter. If our true self isn't the ego, but that vast, silent I am, then what does it mean to live from that? This is the promise, the reality, of what we're calling Christ consciousness. It's not some far-off peak. in the sky destination you reach after a lifetime of grueling spiritual calisthenics. It's not a special state reserved for a handful of saints and masters. That's just another trick of the ego, making the truth seem distant and difficult so it can maintain its job as your spiritual tour guide. The radical, almost shocking truth is that Christ consciousness is your native state. It is the fundamental nature of what you are, right here, right now. What beneath the noise and the story, it's the factory setting. Think of it like this: the sun is always shining. It doesn't matter if a thick layer of storm clouds rolls in and blocks it from our view. The sun hasn't stopped shining, its reality hasn't changed one bit. Our perception has. The clouds are like the ego, the layers of thought, fear, conditioning, and belief in separation that obscure our awareness of the ever-present light of our own being. Christ consciousness is that sun. It's the uncreated, unconditioned, what infinite consciousness that is the substance of your being. You don't have to manufacture it. You can't earn it. You can only become aware of it, or rather, become aware as it, by letting the clouds of illusion dissipate. This is why the mystics of every tradition point to a path of surrender, of letting go, of unlearning. We aren't adding something new to ourselves. We're subtracting everything that is false. We're taking off the layers of costumes we've been wearing, thinking they were our skin. This consciousness is characterized by a sense of wholeness, of already complete perfection. There is no sense of lack within it, because it is one with the source of all. It doesn't seek fulfillment, it is fulfillment. From this vantage point, you realize that every single search you've ever been on, for love, for security, for meaning, was a search for this very consciousness, mistakenly projected onto the outside world. You were looking for the ocean in every drop of water, unaware that you were already swimming in it. Living from this consciousness doesn't mean you walk around in a holy robe, floating 6 inches off the ground, oblivious to the world. It means you engage with life from an entirely different foundation. The external circumstances of your life may look the same. You still have a job, relationships, responsibilities, but the inner context has undergone a revolutionary shift. You are no longer the vulnerable, separate wave trying to navigate the ocean. You are the ocean, having the experience of being a wave, the fear of the future, the regrets of the past, the gnawing anxiety that defines so much of human experience, begins to lose its power. It doesn't vanish overnight, but it's seen for what it is: weather patterns in the sky, having no ability to harm or change the sun itself. Your identity is no longer tied to the success or failure of the character in the play, but to the boundless, silent awareness that is witnessing the entire performance. This understanding completely upends our traditional approach to prayer. For most of our lives, prayer has been a transaction. It's been us down here in our perceived state of lack, sending up a wish list to a distant manager in the sky. We're begging. We're negotiating. Please, God, if you just fix this situation, I'll be better. Please give me this job, this healing, this relationship. But if the truth is that we are one with the source, that there is no separation, then this entire model of prayer collapses. It becomes absurd. It would be like your left hand writing a formal letter to your right hand asking for a favor. There's a fundamental disconnect in the approach. When you begin to glimpse that the power you've been seeking is not external, but is the very core of your own being, prayer has to transform from an act of speaking to a practice of listening. It ceases to be about getting God's attention and becomes about attuning ourselves to the God that is already fully present as our own consciousness. This is what Goldsmith meant by prayer is listening. It's a silent inner receptivity. It's a sinking down below the chatter of the mind, below the petitions of the ego, and into the stillness of the I am. You aren't asking for anything because, in that moment of conscious union, you realize there is nothing separate from you to ask. You are resting in the wholeness. This is a non-verbal, non-directed state. It's not even meditation zizz on something. It is meditation as being. You are not focusing your attention on a concept of God or repeating a mantra to achieve a state. You are, instead, withdrawing attention from the outer world of effects and from the inner world of thoughts, and you are placing it on the aware presence that is witnessing it all. You are turning the current of consciousness back upon itself. In this sacred silence, a profound exchange happens, but it's not an exchange between two parties. It's a realization. It's the wave consciously knowing itself as the ocean. In that knowing, a power, an intelligence, a peace that is not of your personal making begins to flow into your awareness. It doesn't always bring words or specific answers. More often, it brings a reorientation. It brings a clarity that cuts through confusion. It infuses you with a strength that isn't your own, because it's the strength of the infinite. This is where healing and harmony actually emerge. They are not manufactured by a distant deity in response to a good plea. They are the natural byproducts of aligning our awareness with its source. It's like tuning a musical instrument. When the instrument is in tune with itself, the sound it produces is harmonious. When our consciousness is consciously at one with the Father, the life that expresses through us becomes harmonious. Problems that seemed insurmountable to the ego begin to resolve, not because a hand reached down from the sky to move the pieces, but because our own perception is lifted to a higher level from which solutions become evident. Our work, then, is to daily, hourly, enter into this inner sanctuary of silence, not to get something, but to remember what we already are. This shift from begging to listening, from seeking outside to abiding within, changes everything about our day-to-day experience. It's the difference between being a character in a movie, desperately reacting to every plot twist, and being the screen upon which the entire movie is peacefully playing out. This is the essence of living from the inside out. Most of us are living from the outside in. We wait for the world to give us a reason to be happy. We wait for our bank account to hit a certain number to feel secure. We wait for someone to love us in a specific way to feel whole. Our inner state is a slave to external conditions. It's a roller coaster, and we're just strapped in for the ride, hoping for the best. But when you touch that place of inner silence, when you have even a fleeting glimpse of your identity as the conscious awareness behind the drama, you can't go back to the old way of living. You start to understand that your peace, your joy, your stability is not for the world to give you. It is for you to bring out to the world. You stop trying to arrange the furniture in the movie set to make yourself comfortable, and you realize you are the immutable, unchanging space in which the entire set exists. This is a Copernican revolution of the soul. The center of gravity shifts from the external world of effects to the internal world of cause, which is consciousness itself. This doesn't make you passive or disengaged. On the contrary, it empowers you in a way the ego could never comprehend. The ego's power is a brittle thing, or built on force, manipulation, and control. It's always fighting upstream. The power that flows from living inside out is a gentle, irresistible current. You engage with life not from a place of need, but from a place of overflow. Your actions are no longer frantic attempts to fill a void, but natural, spontaneous expressions of the fullness of your being. You find yourself doing the right thing at the right time, not because you calculated it, but because you are listening to and moved by that inner flow. Challenges don't disappear, but your relationship to them is utterly transformed. A problem arises, and instead of the ego immediately panicking and launching into its bag of old tricks, there is a pause. You consciously withdraw from the storm and return to the inner citadel of silence. You rest in the I and the Father are one. You don't ask for the problem to be taken away. You wait for the consciousness of the problem to be dissolved in the greater awareness of the solution, which is harmony itself. From that centered place, right action emerges, an action that is often wiser, more compassionate, and more effective than anything the fearful, separate ego could have concocted. You are no longer trying to control life. You are learning to let life live itself through you, as you with a grace and an intelligence that is not your own, but which you intimately are. Of course, here is the expansion of your sixth keynote, continuing the flow directly from the end of the previous section. This is where the rubber meets the road. It's one thing to have a beautiful, transcendent experience in the quiet of your meditation chair, a fleeting glimpse of oneness that feels like pure grace. It's another thing entirely to carry that awareness into the traffic jam, the difficult conversation, the disappointing news, the daily grind. That's the real work. That's the practice. This isn't about achieving a permanent, blissed-out state where nothing ever bothers you again. That's another ego goal, another destination to chase. This is about the moment, by moment gentle, persistent return to the truth of your being. This is what it means to abide in the One. Abiding isn't a passive state, it's an active, vigilant remembering. It's the continuous, gentle redirecting of your attention from the chaos of the surface waves back to the silent, stable depths of the ocean. You're sitting in a meeting, and the old patterns of competition and insecurity start to rise. The practice is to feel that tension, to notice the ego's urge to defend or dominate, and in that very noticing, to make a subtle inner shift. You consciously take your stand as the witnessing presence, not the reacting personality. You don't fight the feeling, you acknowledge it, and then you re-anchor yourself in the I am. You remember, this drama is not who I am the space in which this is appearing. This is the unglamorous behind the scenes labor of the mystic. It's the art of catching yourself 100 times a day. You're about to snap at your partner, and there's a split-second gap. That's the moment of practice. In that gap, you don't recite a metaphysical affirmation. You simply rest back into the stillness, you remember your true nature, and you allow that higher consciousness to inform your response, which may now be one of patience instead of anger. The reaction doesn't own you anymore because you know yourself to be something greater than the reaction. This is how we wear a groove into consciousness, shifting our default setting from separation to unity. It means bringing this practice of presence to every single thing you do. When you're washing the dishes, you're not just washing dishes, you're abiding. You're feeling the warm water on your hands, you're noticing the breath in your body, and you're consciously being the awareness behind the activity. When you're walking to your car, you're feeling your feet on the ground, you're taking in the sky, and you're knowing yourself as the consciousness that is perceiving it all. You are infusing the mundane with the sacred by recognizing that there is no true separation between the two. The kingdom of heaven isn't a location. It's a dimension of perception, and you are learning to perceive from it at all times. This is the ultimate surrender. It's surrendering the deeply ingrained habit of being the doer, the thinker, the separate self running its own life. It's letting go of the steering wheel and trusting the intelligence of the One to navigate the vehicle. You become a transparency through which the infinite expresses itself in finite form. Your life ceases to be a personal project and becomes a divine activity. You are not living your life, life is living you. And in that surrender, in that continuous, gentle abiding, you find a freedom and a power that the separate ego, for all its striving, could never even imagine.